Welcome back to Sharpen the Point. We close out our stock report and futures bets with the Big 12. Starting things off, guy that I really liked, and I think everybody's a little bit low on at this point. Former Kentucky quarterback, now Arizona State quarterback, taking over for Sam Leavitt, and the man who won me $7,000 last year, Jeff Sims. Cutter Boley, big kid. Somewhat mobile, a poor man's Sam Leavitt is what I like to say. I think he's a good thrower of the football. I think he has room to improve under Kenny Dillingham. And Boley is a guy that I think in the long run this season can put up some numbers. I mean, upside, we're drawing off of. I thought he looked good in that Texas game, even though they only scored 13 points and went to overtime. He threw for 258 on 80% completion percentage. Lack of weapons outside of Kendrick Law there from Kentucky last year. Ran for 45 and a touchdown against that Texas team. Thought he played okay against Georgia the week before. And then he crescendoed with that Tennessee game with 330 and 5 through the air. Ran for another 31. Did not really show that type of upside the rest of the season. Played fairly well against Vanderbilt, although they got smoked. I think I played him against Vanderbilt. He was very underpriced there. I think he can end up being underpriced here early in the year relative to the competition. Step down in competition, obviously going from the SEC defenses to the Big 12, which is more of a shootout conference. Now, the thing we're buying into with Boley is never going to be his legs. It's always going to be based around the pass catchers. And he has two very good ones to draw from. Number one, Reed Harris comes over from Boston College. 6'5" target you can just throw it up to. And he is highly talented. Played with Dylan Lonergan last year. Couldn't necessarily feed him the football. Had two 100-plus yard games. Actually, two 140-plus yard games against Stanford and Georgia Tech. I think he's a talented wide receiver that can grow with Cutter Boley. And these guys are replacing Jordan Tyson. I think they have a better receiving room overall this season by comparison to what they had a year ago, with Tyson missing most of the year. And most of that's predicated on the fact that I think the combination of Reed Harris and Omarion Miller is a better 1-2 tandem than anything they've had in quite some time. Now, granted, we're missing Cam Skattebo, but Miller is in the vein of Cam Coleman and in the vein of Nick Marsh, where they've suffered from the quarterback situation a year ago, and they enter into a better situation this year. Miller is very talented. We can go back to he was hurt that year, but had 145-yard game. The year with, right here, that USC game, 7 for 196 and 1. I believe that was a game that Travis Hunter was banged up in. They were missing some of the wide receivers in that game with Shadur. That was his breakout game. Now, he struggled with injuries the last 2 years before he got to his third season. Played most of last year, 8 for 121, 6 for 131. He's proven it in this conference that he can play and be an 80-plus yard a game guy. He should get plenty of opportunity here. Boley was able to sustain Kendrick Law last year, who is a less talented guy than Omarion Miller or Reed Harris. So with that combination, I am high on this Arizona State offense. Kyson Brown should be the RB1. I love that combination of this offense. I think they're going to play very well through the air. I have a slight lean to the over. It's not something I'm going to play. I think they end up right around 7, maybe 8 wins. It's a 6.5. So somewhere between 6 and 8 would be my lean, but I'm not going to be playing that. Now, as high as I am on Arizona State, mainly buying into Kenny Dillingham, plus I like the guys that he brought in, I'm as equally as low, and I continue to be low on the DJ Lagway Express. Um, as high as I was on Jaden Maeva a year ago and proven correctly, I was as low on DJ Lagway, while the industry and most people talking about college football were high on Lagway, low on Maeva. 2 for 2 there. So I'm going to take my wins where I can get them. I still haven't seen it from Lagway. No 300-yard games. His arguably his best game was the Texas game with 298 and 2. He has no rushing ability. His completion percentage stinks. He takes too many sacks. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. He had an unbelievable receiving core at Florida last year. We could say Billy Napier's a terrible coach, sure, but are you going to argue with me that Dave Aranda's a better head coach than Billy Napier? I mean, the wide receiver weaponry here stinks too. Lewis Brown, Draylon Miller, Gavin Freeman, none of which inspire any sort of confidence. I thought Sawyer Robertson had a far better receiving room a year ago. So I'm not touching Lagway. I don't want any part of it. I don't want any part of that wide receiver room. I don't like this offense. I think it needs to be a run-first offense. They have decent running back, and they're going to have to play good defense because Lagway just ain't it. Now, I'm yo-yoing here on highs and lows, boys. Houston. I love Houston. I think Houston's going to be a great team. I took a day off just to watch the Houston Texas Tech game because I think it's going to be a banger. I love Willie Fritz. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. The combination of Connor Weigman, who played way better than he gets credit for a year ago, he is Haynes King in the Big 12. That is what he is. He is Haynes King in the Big 12. Both former Texas A&M quarterbacks, both got run out of town, both found a home at a lower level, we'll call it lower, and both play a similar style of football where Weigman can run for 100 and he can throw for 250. It just depends on the week. I like Connor Weigman. It is, a very good situation. Do I think he comes off the field for Keyshawn Henderson a little more than I would like? Number one recruit, 5-star quarterback? Probably. Fun stat here, though. Houston is one of only 4 programs in the country with 2 5-star quarterbacks. The other 3 are Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State. Those 3 make sense. Houston, not so much. That's why I think Keyshawn Henderson's going to see the field a little bit because they're going to need to keep him around. But Connor Weigman gives me all the Haynes King vibes here. Now, pairing with him, you got Mekhi Hughes. Everybody is going to be out on Mekhi Hughes. I am going to be all in on Mekhi Hughes. Yes, the Oregon situation failed miserably. Willie Fritz has history with Hughes, though, from Tulane. I think he's going to use him. So I ignore the 2025 season where he barely played and it just wasn't a fit. I'll go back to 2024. Look what the man did for Tulane. It's a level difference. I get it. But it would be a different situation for me if he failed at Oregon as far as in the play. He just never played. So I can't say that he failed or succeeded from the level of competition. What I can say is I've seen him succeed with Willie Fritz. So I'm going to buy heavily into this situation. We saw what he did with the Rice tailback, Dean Connors, when he was there. Connors was really good. I think we see a 1,000-yard season out of Mekhi Hughes. I buy him more than another running back that moved to this conference that we're going to talk about here in a minute. One of the most underrated wide receivers in the country, for my money. He did not get talked about last year enough. Amari Thomas. Amari Thomas was on a tear last year. I played the snot out of him late in the season. Look at the run of how he closed the season. Outside of that Arizona State game, you had 7 for 157, 4 for 69 and 2, 10 for 99 and 3, 5 for 103 and 1, 5 for 72 and 1, 9 for 97 and 1, 8 for 60 and 2. Amari Thomas is going to have a monster year. He had no help a year ago. You add Trent Walker, who is not going to score touchdowns. We know that. Now, he did have a little bit of help from the tight end position. Don't get me wrong. Tanner Koziel, fine, number 2 option. I don't know that the difference between Tanner Koziel and Patrick Overmeyer is all that big. It is a difference. Overmeyer likely not to get drafted from the next level. Overmeyer was also decent and his previous stop, I believe it was UTSA. Decent pass catcher, right? He's fine. I love the addition of Trent Walker because Trent Walker is going to be a problem as far as moving the chains. He was a reception merchant with no touchdown ability at Oregon State. Amari Thomas can blow the top off of defense. He was getting double covered like crazy last year. So I think Amari Thomas, in combination with those two, when you pair it with Mekhi Hughes and Connor Weigman, makes this for a very, very dangerous Houston Cougar team. So I'm high on those boys. Jaden Craig. Josh Hoover moves on. I do like Jaden Craig. I thought this was one of the better pickups out of the portal. I think everybody was a little too low on him. Yeah, completion percentage wasn't optimal. He's got minor mobility. I think when you put him around the weaponry that he's going to have, he's going to be able to play pretty well here in this system. Villanova, usually a tough team by comparison to, especially in the playoffs, compared to a team in the Ivy. But Jaden Craig, we've seen these guys move up before. You know, that's a Cooper Barkate staple for me. I think Jaden Craig plays well. Now, the guy that I'm low on, that I think everybody's going to buy into, pretty sure he was the nation's leading rusher last year, Cam Cook. Cam Cook at West Virginia. West Virginia they can run the heck out of football. Don't get me wrong. Concerns here, Michael Hawkins, I think, is a perfect scheme fit for West Virginia. It is talk of Scotty Fox and Michael Hawkins both playing. I don't love that. I think Michael Hawkins fits the Pat White perfectly. Cam Cook is good, and he was ripping off 100-yard games last year at Jacksonville State. Everybody's buying into that, understandably so. I'd rather have Mekhi Hughes. I think everybody's buying too heavily into the results from Jacksonville State and not remembering the fact that this is a guy who came from TCU previously, failed miserably at TCU when he was hyped up multiple times. I was in on it. Don't get me wrong. I was among the Cam Cook hype train at TCU. Are you really going to tell me that Josh Hoover with Eric McAllister, Quentin Johnston, and all that was there? Remember, Quentin Johnston was there, and he ended up having to play, or Savion, it was Savion Williams, not Quentin Johnston. Sorry. Savion Williams ended up having to play running back because Cam Cook was so bad in that system. With Josh, and that was the good Josh Hoover year, too. That was his best year. Last year was not a good Josh Hoover year. That was his best year, was Josh Hoover with Savion Williams, with Eric McAllister, and everything they had going on. And Cam Cook failed miserably. Same conference. I'm out. I think he's playable in the right situations. I also think the hype train has gone too far. I do not want any Cam Cook. I will play some. Don't get me wrong. We're probably going to get to week 1, and I'm going to be like, oh, I'm playing Cam Cook. And everybody's going to go, why are you playing Cam Cook? You say he stinks. But it depends on the situation. You know, if they're playing a bad team, yeah, he's going to wreck them. But most of the time, I long-term, season long, no Cam Cook. Thank you. All right, futures bets. BYU. BYU's schedule is uber soft. I mean, just Charmin soft. And they come in with an 8.5 win total over under. Just easy win after easy win. I think at TCU is going to be a tester for them. Notre Dame, they're going to probably get slaughtered. Let's be real. Holy War, going to be a tough one at Utah. I think Arizona State could be a challenge for them. But other than that, they're all guaranteed wins. So they're only going to get tested 4 times for my money, which would mean they'd have to lose all 4 to go under the 8.5. I like Bear Bachmeier. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he runs the football very well. I am extremely scared. I love LJ Martin back there with him. So the running tandem, they're going to be able to play defense and run the heck out of the football, which gives them that massive floor and a safe floor. I'm scared to death of their wide receiver room right now. They have nobody to rely on at this point because Chase Roberts was a reliable weapon and is now gone. Parker Kingston, I'm still interested to see what his long-term viability, where he could end up potentially. But he would have been a great weapon for them. He made a stupid decision, more than likely, and he's now gone. So with no Roberts, no Kingston, I think that the pass game suffers. So I think the floor's high, ceiling's low for this team. However, at plus money to go over, I need them to win one of Utah, Arizona State, TCU, and we get 9. And I think 10's well within the possibility. 11 is very possible. At plus 105, I'll drop a unit, no doubt about it. Moving on to the Cincinnati Bearcats. I think this team stinks. I'll be honest. It's not the worst team in the conference. Don't get me wrong. Schedule's tough. I mean, they start out pretty decent. I think Miami of Ohio, you can't even count out as a game that's an easy win, in fairness. Like that's a game they will probably win. I don't know that Boston College is an easy win. They're both terrible teams. So I don't love this stretch here of Kansas State at Arizona, at West Virginia, Texas Tech, Utah, at Houston is just murderer's row. So I struggle to see them getting anywhere. I've got them projected at 4.25. They have a 5.5 win total. I took the under at plus 100 for 1 unit. I think that is a very safe bet here because if they win the first 3, they're going to go 3. Let's say they go 3-0. They need to win 3 more to get over 5.5. Loss. They're not going to West Virginia in October. Loss. Now they've mounted up. I can even give you a win-win and then loss at BYU. So I'll go win-win against Iowa State and Colorado. That still only gets me to 5, even though I think Colorado's probably a toss-up in that situation. I think Colorado's pretty improved there. So under 5.5 for plus 100 for 1 unit. Moving on, Iowa State it could legitimately be the worst team in the country. I mean, they lost everybody. Similar to Cincinnati, they should start out okay. They have a 5.5 win total. I projected for 4.25, same as Cincinnati. It's all going to come down to that Cincinnati game as to which one gets 5, which one gets 4, in my opinion. I took the under 5.5 at minus 130 for 1 unit. I think 4.5 at plus 170 is in play, but I did not play it because they get a win against Southeast Missouri State. They'll beat Bowling Green. They're losing to Iowa, losing here. I think they probably lose to West Virginia. That's the hinge game for me as far as hitting the plus 170. They don't have enough offense to hang with Oklahoma State. They're not good enough to beat Baylor. So you're really hinging it on you would have to beat UCF, Cincinnati, West Virginia. You'd have to take 2 out of 3 to even get to 5. You'd have to take all 3 to get to 6. Well, that's even to get to 5. You'd have to beat somebody else. I can't see 6. So it was a lock for me. I'm going to take a unit on that. I think this offense is just putrid. UCF, I mean, that offense was putrid last year. UCF got my quarterback, former quarterback, Alonzo Barnett there. He's looking pretty decent. I just don't like the schedule, man. I don't like the schedule. It's one of those things that, like, the quit is in play here. And I think Alonzo Barnett's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. I would have liked him better at Wake Forest. I thought that would have fit better around him. I don't like the weapons around him at UCF. I don't trust Scott Frost overall. Bethune Cookman, they're going to look great. They're not winning at Pitt. Georgia State, probably a win, more than likely. Barnett tuned up Georgia State previously. Then you get into the problem, though. You get TCU, Houston, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's going to be in a lot of shootouts. They're the fantasy carnival this year, folks. You want points in bunches and high-scoring games, it's Oklahoma State. They're going to be fun. But they're going to give up points in spades. BYU, loss. Baylor, I feel like, is the coin flip game, right? Baylor is a coin flip game. I think Baylor probably has enough run game that they're going to be a bit of a problem and they're going to play enough defense, but that's a coin flipper. So, I mean, you're looking at 2 wins before you get to Baylor. At what point does a team quit on you? At Kansas, it's going to be a weird situation. Don't know what Kansas is quite going to be. You're having to buy into Cole Ballard, probably. Buy into Dylan Edwards doing something. They have decent running back room there at Kansas, though. Arizona State, I think, is a loss. Iowa State is the team. I mean, this is the bottom of the barrel that they're beating up on each other. You know, if they go under, Iowa State's going under. Like Colorado, at Colorado, I do not like UCF going to Colorado. So I've got this thing at 1 win for Bethune-Cookman, 2 with Georgia State, 3 being generous. Well, 3 with Iowa State. And I think the 4th one is possibly Kansas, and that's being generous. So for me, under 5.5, I have them projected at 4. This is my biggest edge here in the conference at -1.5. I'll take the under 5.5 for +136 for a unit, and I'm going to take a half unit for under 4.5, where I think is legitimately possible for +240. So to wrap things up here, I've got I debated BYU to make the playoff at +400. They just don't have enough passing. I've got BYU over 8.5 for 1 unit at +105. I got Cincinnati under 5.5 for 1 unit at +100. Iowa State under 5.5 for -130 for 1 unit. You could play under 4.5 for +170, but I don't love it. And then Utah, or no, I like Utah actually, but scarily like Utah. I'm staying away there. UCF under 5.5 +136 for 1 unit, and under 4.5 +240 for half a unit.